Blood pump bearing system adaptability. Technology forecast. Introduction. Dr. Michael DeBakey and engineers from the NASA Space Center have made the necessary improvements to the blood pump bearing system to be able to create a more robust, long-term, high-speed rotary pump. The previous blood pumps were unreliable and they destroyed blood cells. This new improved blood pump bearing system is simple and reliable. It is simple because it has one moving part, and it is reliable because it is more robust, and it has long-term, high-speed rotary pump with the ability to last a lifetime. The benefits of the new improved pump include that it has an improved rotary, which is what makes it simple and reliable, as mentioned before. Another benefit is that it increases the blood flow for cardiac patients, and it also can be used to move other liquids. Another benefit is that it has improved circuit control. And another benefit is that it has the ability to run at a high speed without excessive heat buildup or the need for lubrication. Features of the new improved pump include reduced air gap. Another feature is that it has a variable pitch blade. A third feature is that it has a back EMF integrated circuit for controlling rotor operation. Another feature is that it has a greater radius end. A fifth feature is that it has an olive hole ring jewel to support the rotor shaft. And another feature is that it has reduced wear over time. Other possible applications of the new improved pump include usage at a wastewater treatment plant, or possibly a diesel engine manufacturing plant, or possibly at a steel manufacturer's plant. Or the wine industry might be interested in using the pump in their vats. Also, oil-filled saltwater disposal units might be interested in using the new improved pump. This technology forecast will take an approach and adapt the pump for use in a deep water well. That's a freshwater well, the type of water that you drink, household water. This technology forecast will approach it using a 3-scenario attempt, and it will attempt to describe the future technology and is a hypothetical view of the future based on past experience and speculation.
We will now talk about Scenario 1, which deals with the current trends regarding deep well water pumps. About 43 million people in the U.S. self-supply water needs with the use of wells. This information came from the National Atlas, which was updated in 2011. Also, well pump life expectancy is 10 years in the U.S. and Canada and 5 years in Mexico and Central America. This is all based on the usage of the well and the well pump. This information came from Inspectopedia.com, which was updated in 2012. Overall, it is expensive for consumers to replace well pumps. This is why we are talking about the implementation of the blood pump bearing system into deep well water pumps. The blood pump bearing system could increase the lifespan of well pumps. Current deep well water pumps use impellers just like the blood pump bearing system, but they do not use magnets. Magnets help to make it more efficient and effective. The increase in price to consumers offsets the drop in sales due to the increase in the lifespan of the pump. The blood pump bearing system could increase the lifespan of a well pump past the current maximum of 10 years. Current deep well water pumps use impellers just like the blood pump bearing system, but they do not use the magnets. Magnets help to make it more efficient and effective. The increase in price due to the utilization of a blood pump bearing system in water well pumps offsets the drop in sales due to the increase in the lifespan of the pump. Our normal case scenario would be to retain agricultural customers water supplies are not readily available in rural areas. This is why farmers and ranchers are some of the largest consumers of wells and deep well water pumps. The use of groundwater for irrigation increased from 23% in 1950 to 42% in 2000. This information came from the National Atlas, which was updated in 2011. Also, irrigated acreage increased nearly 7% between 1995 and 2000. This information also came from the National Atlas. As you can see, these numbers are constantly increasing. This is a chart that was found on the National Atlas at the United States website. It was also updated in 2011. It shows the year that water was used, how much was used, and it's also color-coded for what the water was used for. Lastly, we will talk about our normal worst-case scenario, which is the contamination of groundwater sources. Groundwater contamination occurs when water is exposed to harmful chemicals. This makes the water unsafe to use. There is estimated to be over 10 million storage tanks buried in the United States alone. Over time, tanks can corrode, crack, and develop leaks. This information came from the Groundwater Foundation, which was updated in 2012. Also, in the USA Today, there's thought to be over 20,000 known abandoned and uncontrolled hazardous waste sites. The numbers grow every year. This information also came from the Groundwater Foundation. If we are not careful, groundwater sources can all become contaminated. The water well and water pump industries both can be negatively affected by the contamination of groundwater sources. Once a groundwater source has been contaminated, it has to either be purified or a new well has to be dug in a new location. Both of these options are very expensive for consumers. Attached is a picture that shows the sources of groundwater contamination.
Hi everybody, my name is Ryan Gallagher, and I'm going to walk you through scenario 2, which is an optimistic forecast. In this scenario, we assume that the U.S. economy will rebound and dig itself out of the current recession. This will be the direct effect of the United States government enacting and putting trade-friendly policies into action and increasing overall subsidies, mainly related to rural industries such as agriculture and manufacturing. Over time, the trade deficit will slowly balance itself out and exports will rise by approximately 3 to 5%. Overall, international trade will begin to climb, and this is very important relating to the agriculture industry. Exports will begin to thrive, and this will lead to an increase in production. The agriculture industry relies heavily on exporting food throughout the whole world. As the increase in production takes place, there will be a need to upgrade current machinery and systems throughout their companies. This will be very beneficial, specifically with the deep well water pump and the bearing system. As overall recovery continues, the rural area of the United States will see an increase in agricultural and manufacturing profits. These industries are currently in a slump, and with the much-needed recovery and government-friendly policies put into place, they will be able to rebound and finally get back in the green. As this occurs, there will be more jobs available and disposable income will increase throughout the area. This is very important relating to our product and its forecast. We need there to be an increase in disposable income because without that, they will not be able to make the much needed repairs for their properties and businesses. With this available, the demand will increase for deep well water pumps. As people have lived on their properties, the age of their current pumps have grown over time, and eventually they will want to replace those and look for more efficient, product that will help them save money over its lifespan. With the product we have in place, this is a viable option going forward. Let's take a step back and not so much focus on the domestic outlook, but the international picture. Asia is a booming economy right now. There's serious amounts of growth, specifically relating to China. Their pump industry has become very profitable with the high demand in manufacturing, agriculture, and the shift towards their populations moving into more urban, dense areas. Based on current data available, we can expect a minimum of at least 3 to 5% growth, and that's playing it safe. Because of the massive shift of their populations, there's been a high increase in sewage. Sewage demand has really put a strain on their current processing plants and has led to the need for more efficient and reliable pumps. The amount of sewage being pumped and processed has grown 13% year over year. This figure can be expected to increase over time as more and more people move towards the cities where the jobs are available. Now, besides China, there are two other major emerging markets, Brazil and India. India has a very large population base, and as their economies increase and more money is available to be spent, this is a very viable market, and our product could do very well. Brazil is also becoming a big player internationally. With their oil profits and the money they're making, there's a lot of disposable income, and this could be a serious opportunity moving forward for the bearing pump system and any pump that it's tied to. Thank you, and now I'll pass it along to my colleague Angela.
Scenario 3, the pessimistic approach. The deep water well pump is only as good as the water available to be extracted from the earth. Groundwater is a major source for the rural population, reaching more than 97%. This is a target market for deep well water pump manufacturing companies. In a worst-case scenario, extending 10 to 20 years, the effect of global warming, drought-like conditions, and overconsumption of groundwater will have a negative impact to the deep water well pump industry. In some cases, a worst-case scenario is observed and provides devices for a growing market. About 60% of aquifers in India will be in critical condition in the next 15 years if the trend of indiscriminate exploitation of groundwater continues. The environmental variable is one that has the highest possibility of proving true in the next 10 to 20 years. In current times, there has already been severe droughts across the world and unseasonably hot weather. It is highly likely that different countries and continents will suffer from historically low rainfall and an overabundance of people, which will cause an imbalanced consumption of water. Higher populations, particularly in areas such as India, Africa, and Asian countries, will begin to put a strain on this natural resource. Without sufficient rainfall to balance out the use of the groundwater table, even deep well water pumps will not be able to provide enough water to sustain the high demand. Like shallow water pumps, deep well water pumps can reach their limits when the water table is lowered due to circumstances like drought and overconsumption. Digging deeper into the earth to find the decreasing levels of water will require a reliable, longer-lasting bearing pump system. Climate is relatively unpredictable when looking far into the future. However, years of data that has been collected points to the fact that, like seasons, climate tends to have cyclical patterns. Climatology, which is defined as the science that deals with climates and their phenomena, is used to try and trend historical data and apply statistics to figuring out patterns. Figuring out the pattern the world is moving towards also also has a major impact to the deep water well pump industry. Even with the inclusion of the patent bearing system that makes the pump last a projected lifetime, it can't compete with the weather, or lack thereof. The Weather Science Foundation concluded that our planet goes through long and short-term weather cycles that ultimately affect human behavior, migration, and widely fluctuating economic patterns like we've seen recently. The 4 cycles that the Weather Science Foundation determined are warm-wet, warm-dry, cold-wet, and cold-dry cycles. Of the 4 cycles, the planet is currently facing the warm-dry cycle, which tends to be the worst. The climate during this cycle is as the name indicates, particularly warmer and drier than normal or average levels. Also, according to the studies of the Weather Science Foundation, the last warm-dry phase was during the 1930s and completed a 102-year cycle. If this cycle proves to be true, we are expected to see these conditions present themselves somewhere between 2020 and 2038. This cycle is plagued with massive worldwide droughts and global depression. If history is any indication of what's to come, we could see a huge stock market crash, global depression, new outbreaks of unknown disease, and perhaps a third world war if we stay warm and precipitation levels fall on a global scale. Should the Earth begin another warm-dry cycle, this would be considered the worst scenario, as the groundwater would be depleted and the demand for the pumps would drop. Now on to the political and socio-cultural variables. Moreover, political mandates will begin to play a major role in this cycle of weather to limit the consumption of water. There will also be an economic impact to the deep water well industry as a whole. With massive droughts, pumps will greatly increase in price, causing a drop in demand. As mentioned, during the warm-dry cycle, global depression occurs, and with this type of economic outlook, any increase in the price of the pump will have an opposite effect on sales. Wells will have to be much deeper to reach the lowered groundwater table, further indicating the need for a more robust, reliable, and efficient pump. These new deep water well pumps will be deeper than ever and much harder and more expensive to replace. A pump designed to last a lifetime will be in high demand for those who can afford it. Although the price is high on the onset, over the lifetime of the well, it pays for itself by eliminating the need for replacement. However, political mandates could prove to help the groundwater table recover by forcing people to use rainwater collection tanks. Although positive for the environment, the widespread use of these tanks would lessen the need for deep well water pumps, even when the climate begins to stabilize. Consumers could grow accustomed to using a more green approach to water use and forego the use of deep well water pumps altogether. In addition, socio-cultural trends are leaning more and more towards a greener lifestyle. Like the possible mandate of using rainwater collection tanks, the culture shift could encourage more and more consumers to opt for a greener solution to water consumption. Consumers may begin recycling water and boiling it to rid the bacteria from previous use. If any of these methods, or other methods designed to reuse water for human consumption, come to fruition, the deep water well industry suffers. However, the bearing pump system can still be used to pump rainwater into the house. Although not used in original design, modifying the pump to work in rainwater collection tanks to push water into the home could become a profitable industry. Identifying other ways to use the pump in water recycling devices would definitely appeal to the growing number of people living the greener lifestyle. This could be considered the best-worst scenario for pump manufacturers in this pessimistic approach.
In conclusion, first, we'd like to go over the blood pump bearing system that was reinvented by Dr. DeBakey and is the driving force of this entire technology forecast. The bearing system that was improved by Dr. DeBakey has been labeled to have the endurance of a lifetime and is more dependable than the bearing systems before its time. technology forecast highlights a deep water well pump application, and we use the judgmental-based scenario approach to highlight the benefits of a deep water well pump system. Scenario 1, or the best scenario for the deep water well system, discussed how the system is readily available for adaptation and to replace existing water well pumps. This scenario would be ideal for farmers, ranchers, and families in rural areas. Another highlight of this scenario was the new deep water well system's availability to extend its useful life up to 15 to 20 years. With this extended life, maintenance costs are likely